I'd like to tell you about the day I got chased by a rabid dog. Now, you don't hear a lot about rabies today because most animals get rabies shots, but when I was a kid, we'd go visit my grandma in Alabama. And there were some years that were really bad for rabies, and my mama would call it a rabies epidemic. And every day she'd tell me to watch out for animals, don't go near any wild animals. And so everywhere you went, you kind of kept your eye out looking for animals. And the key was to look for animals that were doing odd things. Well, in the corner of Grandma's yard, there was this tree I used to like to climb. We called it the evergreen tree. And I would go out there, and there was a limb that was above my reach. But I could climb the tree by jumping really hard and grabbing that limb and then swinging my feet up into the tree. And I had a favorite spot that I liked to go where limbs forked, and it was right near the top. Well, I had just spent over an hour in the tree, and I was about ready to come down. And so I came down from the tree one day, it was a hot day, and jumped down made the final jump off of the limb. And when I landed on the ground, I looked, and over there in the corner of my eye coming across the road, there was this big dog. Now, I don't remember what kind of dog it was. Maybe it was a black lab, maybe it was a German shepherd, who knows. But what I did notice is the dog was kind of staggering and looking all weird, and he was foaming at the mouth like that, and he was growling and snarling at me, and he was coming right at me. And fortunately, he wasn't running. He was just sort of staggering and coming at me, but he was getting pretty close, and I thought, oh no, it's a rabid dog, he's going to get me. And so I was already walked a little way away from the tree, and so I ran back over to the tree, which means I had to run in the direction of the dog. So now he was even closer, and he was coming a little bit faster toward me. He was kind of had his eyes beating on me, and he was really foaming at the mouth and acting strange, and I was scared. And I got right underneath my favorite limb, and I gave the mightiest jump I could ever give, and I grabbed that limb, and I swung my feet up there just as it hit my butt. Fortunately, he missed my butt, but he did snap at me, and I climbed up to my favorite perch on the top of the tree, and the dog stayed at the bottom of the tree, snarling and snapping and growling and foaming and just really acting weird. And I started yelling, "Help! Mom! Help! Help!" And somebody heard me. I don't know if it was Mom or a neighbor or someone driving by, but they called the sheriff or the police. And back then they didn't have 911, they didn't have cell phones, and so they had to dial the number. And pretty soon a sheriff comes rolling up in a car, and the dog's still at the bottom of the tree, snarling and snapping, and the dog started going after him and started heading toward the sheriff. And the sheriff took out his gun and bam, right between the eyes, shot that dog dead. He threw the dog in the trunk and drove off, and I ever saw the dog again, and I never heard for sure whether it really had rabies, but I'm pretty sure it did. At any rate, it sure put the scare in me, and I was mighty grateful for whoever it was that made the call and called the sheriff to take care of the dog. I went in and told the whole story to Mom, and she was really glad that I was safe.